Shalom Israel. It's your brother Marcus G back with yet another Truth for Thought. First and foremost, I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. I must give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High. Secondly, the prayer list. Starting this off again this week with King Shalom Israel. I've been mentioning him for the last, 3-4 Sabbaths maybe. In the description will be his information. This is one of our beloved brethren. He's currently hospitalized and he is homeless. In the description, you'll find all of his information. If you would like to, if you are blessed to be able to be charitable and donate to our beloved brother, then all praises to the Most High. At the very least, keep our beloved brother wrapped in prayer. At the end of this Truth for Thought, I've been doing that lately, some correspondence between he and I. At the end of this Truth for Thought, I'm going to share with you, Israel, the very last correspondence I received from our beloved brother, King Shaul. Next is King Ricky, aka Pretty Ricky. I've given his disposition to you before, Israel. But just to recap, this is one of our beloved brethren who was incarcerated last year. Please keep our beloved brethren wrapped in prayer. I also have Queen Piper, Queen India, Queen Roxanne, and Queen Orlando. Israel, I ask that you keep them in prayer. I have the Ellis family, which is King Charles Ellis Sr., Queen Sydney Ellis, and King Charles Ellis Jr. Israel, they've suffered losses here recently in their family. The passing on from this wicked place to be one step closer, prayerfully one step closer to our beloved Father. Israel, I pray that you keep them in prayer. We also have King Kemar. King Kemar. I said last week I was going to email you after record. I forgot. I apologize. Got a lot going on, King. I'm going to email you or DM you on Instagram after this recording. This is a vow, I promise you. I must make good on that which proceedeth out of my mouth per the Bible. I will be reaching out to you, King Kemar. Been a minute since I've heard from you. Also, if you would, Israel, keep wrapped in prayer. My spiritual family, that would be my spiritual grandma, Queen Raya, who is actually Queen Raya Ellis and related to the Ellis family that I spoke of earlier. Israel, I pray that you keep my spiritual grandma wrapped in prayer. My spiritual aunt, Queen Shay, and my spiritual cousin, King Daniel. Israel, I pray that you keep them wrapped in prayer. My spiritual mothers, both Queen Valerie and Queen Paula. Israel, I ask that you keep them in prayer. Also, Israel, I ask that you keep in prayer Queen Crystal, King Josh, Queen Ashley, and Queen Brittany, as well as Queen Marjorie and King Brandon. They experienced a loss in their family here lately. I ask that you keep them in your prayer. I also have, to my married couples now. Made it to my married couples. We got King Ben and Queen Cassandra. Israel, I ask you keep them in prayer. King Jermaine and Queen Kenya, the Most High has moved for them yet again, Israel. Yet I ask that you continue to keep them wrapped in prayer. King Greg and Queen Sharon, been on my heart. Haven't heard from you all in about a month. Israel, I ask you keep them wrapped in prayer. King Orbia and Queen Melinda. Queen Melinda, all praises to the Most High, has seen you through, has seen you all through a major storm. Israel, I ask that you keep them in prayer. King Diamond and Queen LaShonda, Israel, I ask that you keep them in prayer. Definitely for understanding. Definitely for understanding. King Brian and Queen Shavonda, all praises to the Most High. I ask that you keep them all wrapped in prayer. And of course, Israel, I ask that you keep myself, my beloved brethren, any and everyone that does the work of the Most High. I ask that you keep us wrapped in prayer, especially the ones who attempt to edify our people. I ask that you keep them in prayer. All right. Now, let's deal with the title of this Truth for Thought. Nothing new under the sun. History and prophecy. In fact, let me do this. Let me go. And I'm going to open up the thumbnail. I want to look at this. I want to look at something real quick. I want to share my screen. Let me share my screen. And I'm going to share my screen to this. So, nothing new under the sun. On the left side, you see something of ancient Egypt. These are all some nuggets. On the right side, you see something of spiritual Egypt. So on the left side, there's ancient Egypt. On the right side, there's spiritual Egypt, right? So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, right? And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And we're going to look at these two things, all right? So let me share my screen. This time I'm going to share my screen here. On the left side, you saw ancient Egypt. You saw what was known as the Luxor Temple, still standing today. What you see is still standing today, right? Again, the title, nothing new under the sun. History, which was on the left side, ancient Egypt, and prophecy, which was on the right side, spiritual Egypt. I'm going to, before we go and look at the Luxor Temple, I'm going to say this. Last week, I did a Truth for Thought, and we were talking about, well, I've done a number of Truth for Thoughts about that are inclusive of all of Israel. I did one in reference to the living conditions of all of Israel today. In it, I mentioned the ghetto, the barrios, and reservations. I'll have the link to that Truth for Thought in the description, just in case you haven't seen it, right? Last week, I did a Truth for Thought about the world's upcoming holiday. And I mentioned about some of Israel, as everyone who knows me, anyone I meet, anyone I speak to, anyone I edify, I mention the same thing. Israel is made up of 12 tribes. And in those 12 tribes, on this side of the hemisphere, that phrase is key as well. That are a so-called Negro, a so-called Hispanic, and a so-called Native are of the nation of Israel. Right? So, last week, I looked at some things of the Americas, mainly North America, but I mentioned some things about Central and South America. I'm going to tell you that I also mentioned last week that I will be doing a 5-part series entitled The Complete Nation of Israel, the 12-Tribe Breakdown. Today's Truth for Thought is an expansion on a part of last week's lesson, and somewhat of a precursor towards the lesson of, because it's going to have some nuggets in it, Israel. Along with the precursor, not only is it an expansion of some things that were mentioned in other Truth for Thoughts of mine, like I said, but also of last week's Truth for Thought. But it's going to be leading to that the complete nation of Israel, the 12-tribe chart breakdown series, which is going to be a 5-part series. Now, I'm not telling you that I'm going to start that series next week. The reason why is because the lesson next week is going to be the lesson that the Most High puts on my heart to put out. I'm telling you, I have every intention of doing that. Do I got everything to do it? Yes. I have all the information needed. But I want you to understand the significance of a lot of the lessons I've done and how they're going to tie in to leading to that particular lesson, right? So now, let's look at ancient Egypt, right? The thumbnail has the Luxor temple there, right? And it says, nothing new under the sun, right? Not only that, it has the Washington Monument there on the right side. Again, the title is Nothing New Under the Sun. History and prophecy. So let's look at the Luxor Temple. The Luxor Temple is a large ancient Egyptian temple. I want you to notice the obelisk in the front of this ancient Egyptian temple, right? It is a large ancient Egyptian temple complex located on the east bank of the Nile River in the city known as Luxor, or ancient Thebes. So here you see the current name of said place and the ancient name of said place, that was Thebes, and was constructed approximately 1400 BCE. Y'all know I love dates. That helps put the complete story together. All praises. Because we saw things last week that went all the way back to BCE up to and after, and up to and AD, all the way into the 14, 15, 16, 1700s. All dated, all historical facts, truth. And was constructed approximately 1400 BCE. In the Egyptian language, it was known as Ipet Reset, the southern sanctuary. It was one of the two primary temples on the east bank, the other being Kamak. Unlike the other temples in Thebes, Luxor Temple is not dedicated to a cult god or defied version of the Pharaoh in depth. Instead, Luxor Temple is dedicated to the rejuvenation of kingship. It may have been where many of the pharaohs of Egypt were crowned. Let me say that again. It may have been where many of the pharaohs of Egypt were crowned. Pharaohs in their times were, for lack of better terms, the presidents of ancient Egypt, right? Let's look at the ladder that's on the thumbnail. Again, notice the obelisk. The Washington Monument. On the thumbnail, you see this obelisk and a bunch, surrounded by a bunch of the United States of America, Babylon, spiritual Egypt's flags, right? Please, Israel, keep all this in mind. Don't let this go over your head. Time is drawing nigh. I cannot be someone who is led to implore that my people know who they are. All of my people know who they are. All of the different tribes of Israel know who they are. So that we'll be able to recognize one another even in present day. I wouldn't ask that of just a so-called Negro, as I would ask that of all of Israel. So not just the so-called Negroes, also the so-called Hispanics, also the so-called natives, especially on the Western Hemisphere of the world. I keep stressing that. Keep stressing the Western Hemisphere of the world. There's a reason. There is a reason. Okay. Let's get a little information about the Washington Monument. Remember, the Luxor Temple may have been where many of the pharaohs of old, of ancient Egypt were crowned. Let's read about the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument is an obelisk on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., built to commemorate George Washington, a founding father of the United States, victorious commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, a president. Is there irony or coincidence that this obelisk sits right where the president, every damn president, in history of the United States of America, present day Egypt, spiritual Egypt, where the crowns of every president have sat. Israel, I cannot make this up. There is no irony or no coincidence. But we're going to see. Let me keep reading just a little bit more about this. All right. From 1775 to 1783. So we moving further. Remember, I said about dates and we were talking about BC. Then we went into AD all the way up to the 14, 15, 16, 1700s. All these dates line up. I've been really taking my time going into when I'm going to do this 12 tribe chart breakdown. And I've been really, really meticulous in how I'm bringing things out because I don't want to bring too much at one time. Too much milk and a child will throw up. From 1775 to 1783 in the American Revolutionary War and the first president of the United States from 1789 to 1797. Standing east, the Luxor Temple was on what bank of the Nile? Standing east of the reflecting pool and the Lincoln Memorial, the monument made of marble, granite, and bluestone gneiss is both the world's tallest predominantly stone structure and the world's tallest obelisk. So that means there are other obelisks in the world, such as the obelisk at the Luxor Temple, where you can find many, many obelisks in ancient Egypt. Now, we are observing, it's been here for a long time, but we are observing an obelisk of spiritual Egypt. Now, let me stop sharing my screen. Let me stop sharing my screen because I'm finna share my screen. And we're going to go to the Bible. Going to go to the Bible for a minute. We're going to come back and look at some things of the world for sure. But we're going to go to the Bible. All right. So real quick, let me put my phone on vibrate here so that I don't get interrupted. Right? So let's share my screen to the Bible. Share my screen to the Bible. I do have some foundation scriptures for this truth of God. The first one I want to get is in Malachi. Chapter 3, verse 6. Israel, this is a classic scripture. I've brought this scripture out several times. for a purpose. Hopefully it will be etched in your heart, etched in your mind. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. That verse you're about to see. You're about to see how much sense that verse makes, that the Most High is proclaiming that. You're about to see. Remember that verse. Not remember it for just now. It behooves you, as I have, and I'm offering a suggestion. And when I offer suggestions, I don't tell you what you need to do or what you better do. I'll tell you what I would do. I have etched this verse in my heart. When a famine of the word happens, and it's going to happen, I will forever know this verse. It is etched in my heart, right? From me studying to show myself approved, not to any man, but to the Most High. It behooves you, Israel, to, as I have done so, etch this scripture, not just for today, etch this scripture in your heart. So I'm going to go from there, and we're going to look at some curses. We're going to look at some curses. So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. Nothing new under the sun. Remember that. History and prophecy. Remember that. All there for a reason. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Let's get verse 30. Deuteronomy 28 and 30. And it reads, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Now, these curses happen to all of Israel, not just so-called Negroes. All of Israel, these curses, when they were pronounced, when they were spoken to all of Israel. Verse 15 says, if you, meaning all of Israel, do not hearken unto, right? Because very often, so-called Negroes can see these scriptures and how they relate to them. But so-called Negroes aren't the only thing that make up Israel. Just last week, I showed about enslavement of the two tribes of Reuben and Gad. In the past, I've talked of the massacres and enslavement of Issachar and Ephraim and tribes like that, so-called Hispanics. Just last week, I talked about so-called natives, right? You can find in the Bible that Ephraim is like a cake unturned. How is that? Because it didn't mind. It Because there's a verse right after that. It talked about the mixing of Ephraim with heathen nations. There's no coincidence that that's in the Bible. And to get the full context of that scripture, it behooves to read prior to and after that scripture. But keep that in mind, and I showed just last week how even natives had built themselves homes, but could not dwell in them at a certain time. So-called Hispanics did the same thing. It applies to all of Israel, not just so-called Negroes, right? Let's look at verse 31. Thine ox shall be slain before thine eye, and thou shalt not eat thereof. Thine ass shall be violently taken away before thy face, and shall not be restored to thee. Thy sheep shall be given unto thine enemies, and thou shalt have none to rescue them. I want to stop sharing my screen. Remember that verse. I'm going to come back and read it again after we look at something. Right? Because I want to examine something. Something that happened in history. In spiritual Egypt. Right? So what I want to do is I want to share my screen to this. Now, in ancient Egypt, our people, yes, we possess oxen, cattle, sheep, right? Like I said last week, I did a truth for thought where a lot of it was about the tribes of Reuben and Gad, so-called natives. This that you're looking at, and I'm going to read this over here on the right-hand side, because that scripture said about oxen. Well, oxen, bison, and buffalo, they're all of the same classification of beasts, right? Watch this. A pile of American bison skulls. Look at all those skulls. Look at all those skulls. I'm going to zoom in. Let you see first who's standing on the top of those skulls. There's a biblical nationality standing on the top of those skulls. All three of prophets of old who were shown prophecy, they spoke of this man. What biblical nationality is that? That's just a little nugget. In an historical, factual, historical picture. Not a diagram, which is drawn, but a picture. A capture, a still capture of real life. You see who's standing, who's posing right here? What biblical nationality is that? Because I want you to keep this all in mind. Last week I said I'm going to do some revealing about a biblical nationality, and lo and behold, who do you see here? This is a pile of American bison skulls. Look at the millions. That's not hundreds. That's not thousands of oxen class beast skulls. That's millions. Millions. But what people made food of these oxen class beasts and clothing of these oxen class beasts? Israel, study to shew thyself approved. Even little basic things like this let you see who is who in the Bible. Because the people that did those things, that made food from these things and made clothes from these things, that herded these things just like oxen, those are cursed people. They're part of a whole people that are cursed. Keep that in mind, because we're dealing with one of the curses right now. Keep that in mind. Let me stop sharing my screen. Let me go back to the Bible. Go back to the curses. I want to drop to verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger. The Most High is sending them against all of Israel in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Now, we know about the transatlantic slave trade. Yes, to my beloved brethren that are so-called Negroes. Yes, I know of that. But just last week, I showed you about the enslavement of Reuben and Gad, natives, part of Israel. Let's talk about conquistadors. Yeah, this is a good teachable moment to talk about conquistadors, because I always say that Israel is made up of the so-called Negro. We know about them and their having a yoke of iron, being enslaved. The natives, I talked about them just last week. But conquistadors, they enslaved Hispanics. Let's just see, for shits and giggles, what the definition of a conquistador is. I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. Stop sharing my screen again, because I want to share my screen to this now. Let me pull it up, share screen. We're going to get the definition of a conquistador, right? One that conquers. One that conquers. Specifically, a leader in the Spanish conquest of America's North, South, or Central America. Like I said, this isn't, we finna build up from just last Sabbath and its precursors to my series that I'm going to do. I know others have covered the 12 tribe chart. I'm talking about the one that I'm going to do. It's going to be very detail oriented, but this is a precursor into that. A leader in the Spanish conquest of America, and especially of Mexico and Peru. And we got another date, the 16th century. is this implying that even Hispanics were conquered and enslaved? I will cover it more when I do that particular series. But yes, that's exactly the implication. And yes, there is historical proof to go along with the biblical proof of that curse. Like I said last week, after I do that series, it's going to be hard pressed for me not to come but to two conclusions for anyone. And I know I said last week, whether they're in the truth or not, of Israel descent. Anyone now, I'm retracting that and redacting that. Anyone that sees it, I will come to only two conclusions. One, you are legally blind and deaf, and it would behoove you to seek a check for said disability. Or two, you would rather reject knowledge and wisdom. That is just what it comes down to. So let me stop sharing my screen. I want to read that verse again. I want to read that verse again. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies. In ancient Egypt, did Israel serve their enemies at the time? In modern day times, does Israel serve their masters? Just think about it. Really think about it. Really, really think about it. I want to go from verse 48 down to verse 49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar. Remember those words, from afar. Because last week I went in 2nd Esdras, and the Bible shows where the northern tribe went, where the northern kingdom went afar. Well, the northern kingdom got Ephraim, Issachar, it got Reuben, Gad, it got Simeon. Oh boy, it's finna be a whole bunch of questions here soon that have to be answered. Because that's biblical proof. I'm going to bring forth historical proof. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth. Remember that, Israel, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle. This shit happened fast. As swift as an eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Now, let's see if there's some proof in this. Africans, right now, they speak their native tongue of Igbo, right? Those are Canaanites, biblically. Hamites, biblically. Hamites. They're Hamites. They're descendants of Ham. They might be Canaanites. They might be Putites. They might be Mitzrayimites, which is Egyptians. They might be any of the descendants of Ham. But they speak their native tongue. So-called Negroes, what language do you mainly speak? And some of y'all are bilingual. Watch this. Is Spanish not a language that a lot of you so-called natives either learned or actually speak? Right? So-called natives, you don't speak your native tongues anymore, do you? You speak English now. Some of you just so happen to also know Spanish, taught by Spaniards, so-called Hispanic. You don't speak your ancient language anymore. You speak Spanish, taught by Spaniards, and English. All of Israel didn't normally speak English and Spanish. No, we spoke another language, and I'm going to prove it. Again, even in this truth for thought, especially about the people that I'm going to be talking about of all of Israel in this truth for thought, right? Let's drop down to verse 68. But first, I must say this, verse 49. This nation, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from afar, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Look at verse 50. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Now, to my brethren that are so-called Negroes, yes, I know, we know of this happening to us. I just spoke about this happening to so-called natives. We just looked at conquistadors, and they did the exact same thing to so-called Hispanics. This fierce nation. These are descendants of a certain nation, of many other nations, actually. But this is talking about a specific biblical nation. We saw it on that picture. Conquistadors were just like the people standing on those bison skulls in that picture. That picture depicted something that happened to the tribes of Reuben and Gad, so-called natives, right there in that picture. Not a diagram, not drawn, not a figment of imagination, but a true picture of history that was at one point in time a prophecy. See, Israel didn't always fall under these curses. Israel was told of these curses, and it was said, if you do not, then this will happen. That means it wasn't happening at the time. It hadn't happened since Egypt. Hadn't happened since Egypt. This was after the Exodus. Deuteronomy is after Exodus. So this is not talking about ancient Egypt. And we're about to prove that it's talking about present spiritual Egypt. Let's drop down to verse 68. Let's drop down to verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. Yes, so-called Negroes. I know. This is talking about the so-called Negroes, right? Not just. Shall bring thee into Egypt again. This was said to all of Israel, right? Wherefore I spake unto thee that thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. So-called Hispanics, with the conquest of the conquistadors, they went through the same thing. They were sold for bondmen and bondwomen, right? And a part of spiritual Egypt, because all of the Americas were considered as one whole place. That happened to so-called Hispanics, Ephraimites, Issacharites, Simeonites, Manassites. All these are tribes of Israel, though. How do we know that those people were the people? The Bible gonna prove it again. So now I want to go to Ecclesiasticus, the book of Sirach. Ecclesiasticus, let's go to chapter 34 and let's go to verse 9. I brought this out for a reason, right? Because in study, I just so happen to have traveled a lot. A whole lot. I've seen a lot of things. But let's read this. A man that hath traveled knoweth many things, and he that hath much experience will declare wisdom. So for anyone who may still have the misunderstanding, even with the little nuggets I keep bringing up, heading into the 12 chart breakdown that I'm going to do. If these things happen to, as I always say, so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives, I offer a suggestion to you. As I have done this, travel to Haiti. Look at their poverty level, right? I did a truth for thought. I said it was talking about the ghettos. It was talking about the barrios. And it was talking about the reservations. Travel to Haiti. See the living conditions of the people that are there. Go to Jamaica. See, go and just see all the good stuff. Because see, all that good stuff was built by a certain biblical nationality. Because the original people, they were put in certain parts. Just like the natives were put in certain parts on reservations. Go to the Dominican Republic. Go to Mexico. Go to Brazil. I tell you what. Just in case you can't travel in person, see, the internet will allow you to travel right there at home. Google the slums of and all those places. And you're going to see a bunch of ghettos, a bunch of barrios. and some reservations. But is that irony or coincidence, or is it true? Is it the truth? Israel is the so-called Negro on this hemisphere, in the Western hemisphere, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and natives. So let's think about some things real quick. In 70 AD, the Southern Kingdom fled Jerusalem and lived in Canaan, the land of Africa, for over 1,500 years. Right? Esau didn't begin to come into Africa and capture them to bring them into captivity for colonization till the late 1500s. Right? That's per history. That's for so-called Negroes, right? So then, where did the conquistadors come from? And we just read the definition of a conquistador, right? What did they do to so-called Hispanics? And what did the colonists do to so-called natives? See, the conquistadors, they destroyed the Hispanics and the natives and the Caribbean isles. Let me explain something to you, Israel. Prior to 1490, the whole Western Hemisphere, it wasn't even a part of the complete map of the world. Did you know that? Were you aware of it? Were you taught that? I tell you what, prove all things. Prove it. Either prove me wrong or prove the truth, as I'm telling you the truth. As of prior to 1490, the whole Western Hemisphere, which is a land afar, because you got to remember, ancient Israel was way over around the Middle East, the area or region of the world that is now referred to as the Middle East, prior to going into Canaan, Africa. So what I want to do, I want to compare and contrast some things, right? I want to compare and contrast some things. Again, just for shits and giggles. Just for shits and giggles. We're going to go back to the Bible. Trust me, we're going to be going back to the Bible. I want to share my screen or something now. But this is happening. This is actually happening here recently, over recent years. Mexico City to swap statues, the statues of Columbus, for one of an indigenous woman. But why? Because they were subjected to those same curses as they are part of Israel. Israel, some of y'all gonna have some questions to answer. But let's see if this has been happening with just so-called Hispanics. Check this out. Let's look at this. Nearly 100 Confederate monuments removed in 2020. That same thing is happening right here in another one of the Americas, because Mexico is in a different region of the Americas. I want to go and read a little something about this. Just a very small. Mexico City's governor has confirmed that a statue of an indigenous, a report released today, found that, this is the wrong one. Yeah, this is what I want. Mexico City's governor has confirmed that a statue of an indigenous woman will replace the capital's Christopher Columbus monument. Remember, I even mentioned this. 1492, when he sailed the ocean blue, he was heading for the Indies, the West Indies, and mistakenly fell on Mexico, Central America, a land afar. I'm going to keep saying this. Mexico City's governor has confirmed that a statue of an indigenous woman will replace the capital's Christopher Columbus monument. The statue was removed last year after indigenous rights activists threatened to tear it down. Some descendants of Israel threatened to tear it down. But wait a minute. Because in another one of the parts of the land afar, nearly 100 Confederate monuments removed in 2020. Report says more than 700 remain. Just a little compare and contrast, because we're going to look at ancient Egypt and we're going to look at spiritual Egypt. These things we must look at. There are some keys there. A report released Tuesday that found that 168 Confederate symbols were removed across the United States in 2020, virtually all of them following the killing of someone who didn't know who he was. Because when he got killed, he didn't have fringes on. It's very plain to see. But he's a descendant of Israel. By Minneapolis police officers. Only one of the symbols was removed prior to Floyd's death, when Virginia renamed Lee Jackson Day in April as Election Day. Let me stop sharing my screen. Is there irony or coincidence in that, Israel? Because it's a lot of other things that I'm going to be showing you. And I'm going to ask, is there irony or coincidence in it? And anyone that knows me knows that there's no such thing as irony or coincidence. Those are just two words that man have made up to explain that which they cannot. Now, just because they cannot explain it doesn't mean that there's no explanation. Let's go back to the Bible. Let's go back to the Bible. We're going to look at some people who saw prophetic visions. We're going to look at some prophecies, and we're going to look at some things that happened biblically and historically to Israel. As we looked at some of the prophecies, at one day it was a prophecy for Israel in the curses. Let's look at some other things, right? I want to go to Daniel. I just did a Daniel 7 breakdown, man, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Did Daniel 7 part 1 and 2, but let's go to Daniel and let's go to chapter 12. And I want to give verses 2 through 4. Daniel saw this. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake. They shall awake. Many of Israel, many so-called natives, many so-called Hispanics, many so-called natives, as they are part of all of that, make up Israel on the western hemisphere of the earth. I'm gonna keep saying this. They are waking. I did a truth for thought, and I said how great a lie the great awakening was. I showed Israel what the real great awakening will look like. If you were to put the title A Great Awakening on something, and it's happening. Some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. The reason why so many of us, so many of Israel are waking up, prophecy is coming into fruition. Many of us are going to and fro, and knowledge is increasing. Well, also, time is drawing nigh. That too is true. So while knowledge is increasing, and be it the Most High will, I will do this. I'm going to continue to attempt to increase Israel's knowledge, even in who the fuck are Israel, who all make up Israel. I want to go from there to let's go to Malachi. Let's go to Malachi chapter 1. Yeah, let's go here. Verse 4. No. Before I get there, let's go to Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah. Yeah, let's go to Isaiah first. Let's go to Isaiah first. Another prophet. Isaiah. I want to get chapter 14. And we're going to get verses 5 through 14. Watch this, Israel. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Right? Who are this wicked? Because last week I said I'm going to do some revealing about one particular biblical nationalities. There are 18 of them. One of them is Israel. The other 17 are enemies of Israel. They all played some kind of role in a negative effect towards the Most High's chosen people. Right? He who smote the people in wrath and with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger and is persecuted and none hindereth. What nation Which biblical nationality is this? I'm going to say again, you saw a picture with them in it. I did some revealing about them last week. Let me keep reading. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. Hell from beneath is removed for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? These are questions that will be asked in a certain day to a certain biblical nationality. Let me keep reading. Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of the vials. The worm is spread under the tree, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? See, a lot of people going to say, this is talking about Satan. Watch this. How art thou cut to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? This is a certain people that weaken the nations. Let's keep reading just to see. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregations in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. There is a certain biblical nationality that this is speaking of. There he is. That's the truth. You can read about him in Revelation. Revelation 12. It's a red dragon. Now, that red dragon, let's just go there. Let's go to Revelation 12 and 3. Let's go to Revelation 12 and 3. Because I'm not going to break this all the way down, but I do want you to understand 12 and 3. I pushed 13. 12 and 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, this was a revelation to Paul the Revelator. A great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. This is talking about a nation of people. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman. This was Israel, which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. This was a biblical nationality, and it actually is about America. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, and they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now, check this out. Per this, again, the woman was Israel. Israel has been in the wilderness before. And per this wilderness, Israel will go into the wilderness again. This is a prophecy. Israel went into wilderness after the Exodus, right? After a deliverance. I want to say that. After a deliverance, right? In the act of a deliverance. Guess what's supposed to happen in the act of the next deliverance? Even from spiritual Egypt. Now, a lot of this is going to tie right back in to the verse that I started with, which was, for I am the Lord. This was Malachi 3:6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob, Israel, that woman, are not consumed. The woman, Israel, the bride. I said it. Which royal? The second royal gathering. I said Israel. The first royal gathering. Israel, you are her bride. You are his bride. So the bride is going to go into the wilderness in another deliverance. Now we getting into some of the meat and potatoes of this particular truth of thought. I want to go and look at a prophecy that Jeremiah made, because Jeremiah said this prophecy after the Exodus from Egypt. Watch this. Let's go to Jeremiah 50:33. Let's go to Jeremiah 50:33. This is well after the Exodus from Egypt, well after the deliverance from Egypt, right? Jeremiah 50:33. Watch this. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel. You're going to learn right here. He's talking about the northern kingdom. And the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, were oppressed together. And all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. Let's look at verse 34. The Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their case, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. Let me ask you something. Spiritual Egypt is also known as modern day Babylon, is it not? Nothing new under the sun. See, this is key. This is key. And the reason this is key is because last week, well, we're going to read it again this week, so I'm not going to mention it. This is key because let's look at some captivities that happened after Jeremiah said that. Right? The Babylonians, first, the Assyrians captured the northern kingdom, right? But notice that Jeremiah said together. They would be together, right? So when Assyria captured the northern kingdom, all of Israel wasn't together, right? When Egypt captured Israel, all of the kingdom was together. That was ancient Egypt, right? Look at how the Most High do things, because he never changes. We read it. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob, be not consumed, right? Ancient Israel was the one time, which was prior to Jeremiah saying that all of Israel were captive together, right? And we're going to look at that too. We're going to look at ancient Egypt, because there was a key that happened with ancient Egypt that also happened with spiritual Egypt, and it has flown over so many of people of Israelite descent, whether you're in the truth or not, especially those in the truth. It has flown over your heads. But I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to edify my people. So the Assyrian captivity, that wasn't all of Israel. The Babylonian captivity was when the Babylonians captured the southern kingdom. That wasn't all of Israel. Right? The Greek captivity or domination. I went over all these dominations in Daniel 7. All this is leading up to something. I'm telling you, it's leading to that particular lesson about the 12 tribe chart. But I got to get there. There's a lot of history that has to be taught so that you'll head into that particular series of lessons with the correct understanding. So the Greeks, right? They only conquered the southern kingdom. And the Romans, after the Assyrian captivity, the captivity of the northern kingdom, and this outrageous slaves. We're going to go okay. I want to make sure that my microphone is working because it looked like it went out. We're going to go to 2 Kings chapter 17. Okay. We're going to get verses 1 through 24 for a very specific reason. Now, notice we just went through the same dominations that were mentioned in Daniel 7 and who were actually made captive. This was after Jeremiah had said a prophecy about Israel being captives all together in a certain day, right? All together. The Assyrian captivity or the Assyrian domination, they captured the northern kingdom. You never hear about the northern kingdom going into captivity again. There's a reason for that. But let's just keep looking at the dominations. The Persians and the Medes, southern kingdom. The Babylonians, southern kingdom. The Greeks, southern kingdom. The Romans and the Greeks, southern kingdom. But nothing about the northern kingdom. There's a reason why. And I want to come here first before I go to 2 Esdras, which is what I read last week, because we're going to it again this week, because there is something here that further proves what 2 Esdras 13 is about. Okay? So we're going to get 2 Kings 17. We're going to go from 1 to 24. I'm going to make this really, really brief. I want you to pay attention to the names that you hear. You're going to hear a bunch of these. You're going to hear some of these names in 2 Esdras, proving this is the same account of Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom. Okay? Just pay very close attention, Israel. Also, I want you to understand. Well, no, that's for when I do the actual 12 tribe. Never mind. For the sake of knowledge, understand this is after the nation of Israel was two kingdoms, because they had never been in captivity again as one kingdom since ancient Egypt. And again, we're going to look at something very specific about ancient Egypt, and we're going to line it up with spiritual Egypt for you to have a much better understanding. We're not going to line it up. The Bible actually does it. So does history back it up. 2 Kings chapter 17, verse 1 through 24. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, remember that name, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel. This is why in Jeremiah you saw the children of Israel, because this is referring to the northern kingdom. And then you see the children of Judah. That was representative of the southern kingdom. So everywhere you see Israel here, it's referring to the northern kingdom. 9 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, but not as the kings of Israel that were before him. Right? So the northern kingdom in sin, because their leader, their king, the one who ruled over the northern kingdom, is in sin. The rest of them following him. And the king of Assyria found conspiracy in Hosea, for he had sent messengers to the king, king of Egypt, king of Egypt, and brought no present to the king of Assyria. So that means he called himself paying homage to the king of Egypt, but he ain't do that for the king of Assyria. So now he feeling a certain kind of way, because he's like, hey, man, I got a problem with that. As he had done year by year. So look, the king of the northern kingdom, the ruler of the northern kingdom, every year he taking some to sow the king of Egypt, right? But nothing to the king of Assyria, right? And the king of Assyria, he's taking offense to that. Therefore, the king of Assyria shut him up and bound him in prison. So the king of Assyria bounds him in prison. Then the king of Assyria came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it for 3 years. In the 9th year of Hosea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria. So he takes the northern kingdom and takes them away to Assyria, and placed them in Halah and in harbor by the river of Gozan in the city of the Medes. For it was the children of Israel, still referring to the northern kingdom right here. For it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God, which had brought them up out of the land of Egypt. So this is referring to when Israel was one kingdom. Because again, Assyria only took the northern kingdom. So it's referring to ancient Egypt, from under the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and had feared other gods and walked in the statutes of the heathen. Look at how the fucking northern kingdom acting up. Whom the Lord cast out from before the children of Israel and of the kings of Israel, which they had made. And the children of Israel did secretly those things that were not right against the Lord their God. They in sin, right? The northern kingdom. This was after the Exodus. So guess what was already in place? The curses. But this is the northern kingdom. And they built them high places in all their cities, from the tower of the watchman to the fenced city. And they set them up images and groves in every high hill and under every green tree. And there they burnt incense in all the high places, as did the heathens, whom the Lord carried away before them, and wrought wicked things to provoke the Lord to anger. Curses in effect. I'm telling you, curses are already in effect. For they served idols, whereof the Lord has said unto them, ye shall not do this thing. In fact, he echoed the sentiment when the kingdom was split in two, when he rendered the kingdom from Solomon. That's what Solomon was doing. That got Israel. Every time Israel get in the situations they in, because of the transgression of the Most High's law. But I'm going to talk about Solomon in the preface, the first part of that 12 tribe chart breakdown, because I got a breakdown from when it was one kingdom to split into two. Then I'm going to talk about who make up the components of the two, which are the 12 tribes. Yet the Lord testified against Israel and against Judah. Now he's talking about the southern kingdom. So he testified against the northern kingdom and against the southern kingdom by all the prophets and by all the seers, saying, turn ye from your evil and keep my commandments and my statutes according to the law, which I commanded your fathers way back in ancient Egypt, and which I sent to you by the servants, the prophets, including Moses. Notwithstanding, they would not hear, but hardened their neck, stiff-necked people. And we still just talking about the northern kingdom, although he did also address the southern kingdom a couple of verses earlier, like to the neck of their fathers, because Solomon did the same damn thing and did not believe in the Lord their God, and they rejected his statutes and his covenants that he made with their fathers, and his testimonies, which he testified against them, that they followed vanity and became vain and went after the heathen that were round about them, concerning whom the Lord charged them that they should not do like them. This leads to so many things. This leads to the two different types of Gentiles. This leads to all kind of stuff. But I'm just going to stay with where I'm at. And they left all the commandments of the Lord their God and made them molten images, even 2 calves, and made a grove and worshiped all the hosts of heaven and served Baal. And they caused their sons and their daughters to pass through the fire and used divination and enchantments and sold themselves to do evil in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. They were sinning left and right. The northern kingdom was, but not just the northern kingdom, also the southern kingdom. That's why he mentioned them. That's why I was mentioned earlier. That's why I said the sons, the children of Israel and the children of Judah. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only the southern kingdom. Also, Judah kept the commandment, not the commandment of the Lord their God, and walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. And the Lord rejected all the seed. Now the seed of Israel. This is Israel collectively. This is including the southern kingdom. And afflicted them and delivered them into the hand of spoilers until he had cast them out of his sight. For he rent Israel from the house of David. There you go. The splitting of the kingdoms. The house of David is referring to Solomon, as Solomon is the son of David. He had inherited the kingdom of Israel as a whole, the whole kingdom, just one kingdom. So this is talking about when he rented the northern kingdom from the house of David, from Solomon. And we're going to get that when I do the 12 tribe chart. You can read about it in 1 Kings 11. And they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king, and Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord and made them sin a great sin. For the children of Israel walked in all the sins of Jeroboam, which he did. They departed not from them until the Lord removed Israel out of his sight, as he had said by all his servants, the prophets. So was Israel carried away out of their own land to Assyria unto this day. Further proving where you see Israel here, all but a couple of places. It's talking about the northern kingdom because Assyria took the northern kingdom. Verse 24 is a key verse that a lot of people don't know how key it is. Watch this. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon. He brought all these heathens, and from Cuttah, and from Ava, and from Hamath, and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. So what happened was, he takes the northern kingdom and he takes them to Assyria. This king does. And then he takes other heathens and puts them in all the places that the northern kingdom occupied. That is key. Let me keep reading. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. So notice who dwell in those cities. Heathens. Now let's go to 2nd Esdras. Because now it's going to make sense what happened in this council in 2nd Esdras. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 13. The same thing I went over just last Sabbath. 2nd Esdras chapter 13, we're going to start at verse 40 and read down to 45. 2nd Esdras 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes, the northern kingdom, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, Hosea, remember the name, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, out of Samaria, over the waters. And so they came into another land, and so they came into Assyria, just like it read in 2 Kings. Now, here's where the plot thickens. Verse 41. But they took this counsel among themselves. So Israel, the children of Israel, and I'm going to be saying that now, and I want you to know that's representative in this case of the northern kingdom. But the northern kingdom, but Israel, they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Uh-oh. That they might keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. It was just verified in 2 Kings. And they entered into the Euphrates by a narrow place of the river, for the Most High then shewed them signs for them, and held still the flood till they were passed over. This is where I said just last week, the Most High ordained this to happen, and he led their steps. He ordered their steps. You can only read about the ordering of steps in 2 places in the Bible. Those exact words, order and steps. Only in 2 places of the Bible. One is someone asking that the Most High order their steps. And 2 is the Bible saying how much delight the Most High has in anyone or people whose steps he's ordered. Only 2 places. But he led them. Let's keep going. 45. For through that country, so they got to go all the way through what was then Assyria. There was a great way to go. So through that country to where they were going was a great way to go. A great distance. This was not a 4K hike. 5K hike. No. They finna foot it for a minute. In fact, it tells you. Let's keep reading. Namely, of a year and a half. They had to walk that long for a year and a half. Straight. And the same region is called Esdras. That region in today's time is what's known as the Americas. The reason why, let's do a little review. The reason why in Jeremiah 50 and 33, it says Israel will be all together again. And the reason why I went through and said, however, the northern kingdom, since he said that, the northern kingdom had been captive by Assyria. That's only part of Israel. The southern kingdom, they've been captive to the Babylonians, the Greeks, and the Romans. Through all those dominations, right? So the last time that Israel, what is Jeremiah talking about? If the last time that Israel were all together as captives was ancient Egypt, what is Jeremiah referring to? Jeremiah is referring to spiritual Egypt. It was a prophecy. Let's look back in history. Like I said, the last time Israel were all together prior to Jeremiah 15:33 was in ancient Israel, was in ancient Egypt, right? However, Jeremiah prophesied that well after that. But let's look at ancient Egypt. Because there's finna be proof in the northern kingdom went to the Americas. Remember, Malachi 3 and 6. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. So the Most High is not going to change, right? Let's look at ancient Egypt, right? I want to ask y'all, who was in ancient Egypt first? And this might seem like a trick question to people, but who was in ancient Egypt first? Was all of Israel in ancient Egypt first, or was a part of a representative of a part of ancient Egypt in ancient Egypt first. And I'm gonna give y'all a little time. Because this is gonna make sense as to what what Malachi 3 and 6 is talking about. Watch this. Hopefully, y'all put an answer there. If you didn't know, just say I don't know. That's fine. Let's go to Genesis 44. This is prior to ancient Egypt. Genesis 44. Let's go to Genesis 44. And we're going to get 1 through 14. Watch this, Israel. Watch this. And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sack with food, as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. Uh-oh. This is Joseph. Let's keep reading. As soon as the morning light, the men were sent away, they and their asses, and they were gone out of the city, and not yet far off. Joseph said unto his steward, up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divideth? Ye have done evil in so doing. And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, wherefore saith my Lord these words? God forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths, we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. That's in Africa. Egypt's in Africa, isn't it? Agree. How then should we steal out of the Lord's house silver or gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondmen. And he said, now also let it be according unto your words. He with whom it is found shall be my servant, and ye shall be blameless. Then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack. And he searched and began at the eldest, and left the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there. Wait a minute, a representative of Israel was already there. And the other representatives, the other brethren, Judah and his brethren, came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there. And they fell before him on the ground. Well, let's go. Let's go to Exodus. Let's go to Exodus. Because it appears for the Bible that all of Israel wasn't at Egypt at the same time initially. A representative of Israel was there. So let's go to Exodus chapter 1. And the Most High doesn't change. Chapter 1. And we're going to read verses 1 through 8. Watch this, Israel. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren in all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So Joseph was already in Egypt prior to the rest of Israel being in Egypt, right? Prior to all of Israel being afflicted as a whole, Joseph, a representative of Israel, was there in ancient Egypt first. Then his brethren came, right? It was there that they were afflicted for about 400 and some years, right? Well, let's look at spiritual Egypt. Just for a second, let's see if the Most High changed. Let's look at spiritual Egypt. Well, spiritual Egypt wasn't found by itself. In fact, spiritual Egypt was occupied when it was referred to as the New World. It was occupied by representatives of Israel in the northern kingdom. Guess what? The sons of Joseph are in the northern kingdom. A representative of the northern kingdom was in ancient Israel first. A representative of the northern kingdom was in spiritual Egypt first. 400 plus years of servitude in ancient Egypt, and how much slave time was here in spiritual Egypt? 401. Oh boy, it's a lot of questions got to be answered. The Most High. I'm going to read Malachi 3:6 again. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Let's do a little bit more comparing and contrasting. In ancient Egypt, that's where they were learning to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, right? Let's prove it. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12, because that's where they learned to keep the Passover. Let's go to Exodus 12. We're going to get verses 1 through 14. Let's see. And the Lord spake to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel. Notice this is Israel all together in ancient Egypt. Saying, in the 10th day of this month, they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel, the whole damn nation. Remember, a representative of the whole nation was there first in Joseph. And then his brethren joined him in Egypt. The northern kingdom was in Assyrian captivity. They left, they went to a land never before occupied by man. That land were the lands of North, Central, and South America. And guess what happened? Over time, he was met with his brethren. Nothing new under the sun. The Most High never changed, so that the sons of Jacob, the congregation of Israel, be not consumed. Let's keep going. 430 years. Let's get that first. 430 years was in ancient Egypt. Let's go to Genesis 15 just to get that real fast. Let's start at Genesis 15 because it was a prophecy to Abraham. Right? There was a prophecy to Abraham way back in Genesis prior to Egyptian captivity. Genesis 15 and 13. Let's get this. Let's see what the Most High told Abraham. And thou, 15 and 13. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Wait a minute. That ain't the only place. Let's go back to Exodus 12. Back to Exodus 12. I want to get verse 40. And we're going to go back up to what we was reading about them learning to keep the laws again. Let's get verse 40 real fast. Now, the sojourning of the children of Israel, the whole nation, this is when they were sojourning after a certain amount of time that they spent the same thing the Most High told Abraham in Egypt in captivity. Let's see this. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. We just read that in Genesis. How many years was there a recorded captivity here in spiritual Egypt? I ask again. Is the Most High any different? Because check this out. We ain't done with this. Now let's go back up. We was here in Exodus 12. Right? Yeah, we were here in Exodus 12, and we was at, because they was getting ready, they was learning to keep the law, statutes, and commandments again, and it was starting with the Passover, as the Passover was the first thing that happened prior to them being delivered from the 400 plus years. Watch this. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on two side posts and on the upper door posts of the houses wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread. They finna keep the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. In fact, they travel with their unleavened bread for those next 7 days as they sojourned, as they were being delivered. But let's keep going. And they shall eat the flesh in the night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, not boiled, but roast with fire his head with his legs and with the pruteness thereof. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. That's the Passover. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. And thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, because they finna get ready to get delivered, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For this the Most High, he's given this commandment to keep this. He's finna get Israel back in line with keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. He had Moses constantly telling them to be keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. He's finna deliver them. Check this out. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night and will smite all the firstborns of the land of Egypt. That includes any disobedient Israelites back then. He said the firstborns in the whole land of Egypt. And yes, there were some disobedient Israelites then, and they lost their firstborn on that night. Both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt, I will execute judgment. I am the Lord, and the blood shall be to you for a token upon the house where ye are. And when I see the blood, see, some disobedient Israelites didn't do this. They didn't put the blood on there, but it was there for a reason. Here is the reason. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon to you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. See, the Most High is smiting the whole land. The only thing that lets the Most High know in this account that you are his chosen people, you set yourself apart. There's blood that he will notice. Not the blood of any human, but the blood of these lambs. Right? But some stiff-necked, hard-head, rebellious ass Israelites even then lost their firstborn because they did not do what was commanded of them. Let me keep going. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. Right? And they did it. So they started learning to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments again, right? It was coming out of sin. Right now in spiritual Egypt, there are people waking up. There are people of Israelite descent. They're waking up. And guess what they're doing? Keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. Now, then, in ancient Egypt, they did 430 years. Here, in spiritual Egypt, how many years? Who was in Egypt first? A representative of Israel prior to the rest of Israel. Watch this, Israel. In the Americas, who was here first? The northern kingdom. Prior to the southern kingdom being here, the Most High doesn't change. All the way up to deliverance. Check this out. Jeremiah said, after ancient Egypt, right? So they kept the Passover, right? And Jeremiah said that Israel will be all together captives together. One nation, one kingdom, all together again. And it hadn't happened until now. Now, just like in ancient Egypt, a representative of the northern kingdom was there first. Then the rest of Israel was there. Spiritual Egypt, a representative of the northern kingdom was here first, or a representative of Israel was here first in the northern kingdom. In fact, the sons of Joseph was here first. They are in the northern kingdom. They were here in spiritual Egypt first. Then the rest of his brethren were here. Let's go and look at ancient Egypt again. 430 years. I ask again, how many years has captivity been here in what you know as God-forsaken Babylon, where the northern kingdom was first and the rest of his brethren has now come and met him? Okay. Let's just continue. They started keeping the laws and statutes and commandments in ancient Egypt. What's going on in spiritual Egypt right now today? I can't even make this shit up. After the 430 years, after they started keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, the Most High delivered them. What is prophesied to happen from spiritual Egypt as you know it today? Now, let me read Malachi 3 and 6 to you again. All of this was by design by the Most High. Understand this. For I am the Lord. I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. There's nothing new under the sun. And because the Most High doesn't change, the same way that ancient Egypt captivity was, guess what? Spiritual Egypt captivity, it's picture perfect the same. So time is drawing nigh for a deliverance. But as you know, the prophecies say that when this deliverance happens, there's going to be one kingdom that will be everlasting, that will never. Can't make this up. It's why I keep saying time is drawing nigh. Too many signs are showing, Israel. I wanted you to know, even in your captivity today on the Western hemisphere of the world, I keep saying that. It's referred to even in Deuteronomy 28 and 68 as Egypt. This is spiritual Egypt. Spiritual Egypt is shaping up just like ancient Egypt did. Picture perfect. There's nothing new under the sun. We examined history and we examined prophecy. Some of that prophecy has come to fruition. Others are still happening right now today. Now, I want to stop sharing my screen. I got to show you this. I got to share my screen with this, right? Because like I said, I'm inching inch by inch so that it will be no stones left unturned about who all make up the nation of Israel when I do that lesson. And I've been giving y'all nuggets, piece after piece, over and over. We know who Reuben and Gad is. It's not a guesstimate. I'm sorry. We know who Issachar and Ephraim are. We know who Manasseh are. It's not a guesstimate. But I want to share another little nugget before I leave here. Y'all know me. Let me share my screen one more time for you. Let me share my screen one more time. I want you all to do a little studying. Because I said last week, with what I did and what I'm going to do in regards to the lesson for the 12 tribe chart, no, and I left some little nuggets in now, but I'm going to leave some nuggets here. For everyone who thinks that Hispanics, who has the misunderstanding that Hispanics are not of Israel, explain this to me. This is the Los Lunas Decalogue stone. The word Decalogue literally means commandments. I'm going to share it with you. Hopefully you do some studying to show yourself approved and you study further. right? Again, just a nugget. I'm going to leave a couple of nuggets today. So the Los Lunas Decalogue stone is a stone boulder, a large boulder on the side of Hidden Mountain near Los Lunas, New Mexico. Los Lunas, New Mexico. Anyone have a issue with when I say the so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives? You finna have a real major issue that you got to answer for. Now, I got some questions for you. Check this out. About 35 miles south of Albuquerque, that bears a 9-line inscription carved into a flat panel. The stone is also known as the Los Lunos Mystery Stone or Commandment Rock. Why would the 10 Commandments be etched in? But we're going to see what language it was in. It's going to be some questions to answer. Why do Hispanics have etched in a stone the commandments? Let's keep reading. The stone is controversial in that some claim the inscription pre-Columbian and therefore proof of early Semitic contact with Americans. No, they were Semitic people. They were of Israel descent. They were the northern tribe. They were the northern kingdom. They were Issachar. They were Ephraim. They were the Manasseh. I can go on through them, but I'm not going to. Let's keep reading. The first recorded mention of the stone in 1933 was Professor Frank Hibben, 1910 to 2002. That's how long this man lived. An archaeologist from the University of Mexico saw it. According to a 1996 interview, Hibben was convinced the inscription is ancient and thus authentic. He reported that he first saw the text in 1933. At the time, it was covered with lichen and patination and was hardly visible. He claimed he was taken to the site by a guide who claimed he had seen it as a boy back in the 1880s. However, Hibben's testimony is tainted by charges that at least 2 separate incidents he fabricated some or all of his archaeological data to support pre-Clovis migration theory. Let's look at this stone and see what it was written in. The reported 1880s date of discovery is important to those who believe the stone is pre-Columbian. However, the Paleo Hebrew script, you got any fucking problem. I don't care if you're in the truth or not. If you got a problem with any time I say you so-called Negroes, Hispanics, because that's who did this rock, or natives, you don't have a problem with me. You got a problem with both the Bible per 2nd Esdras 13, 2 Kings, 2 Kings 11, I think it was, 2 Kings, was it 17? 2 Kings 17. You got a problem with the Most High's words. You don't have a problem with my words. This was written in Paleo Hebrew script, the 10 Commandments in a rock by Mexicans, so-called Mexicans. I will tell you they're not Mexicans. That is a byword. They're not Hispanics. That is a byword. That's why I say so-called. These were Israelites. Let me give you another little nugget. Let me give you, just for you to do a little research, study Israel. The Bat Creek Stone. How many have heard of the Bat Creek Stone? I'm just curious. The Bat Creek inscription is an inscribed stone tablet found by John W. Emmett on February 14th, 1889. Emmett claimed to have found the tablets in Tipton Mound 3 during an excavation of Hopewell Mounds in Loudoun County, Tennessee. That's right here in spiritual Egypt. That's right here where it was considered a new world, but the northern kingdom said they were going to a land where man never lived. That's in this same place. Let's keep reading. Let's just keep reading. If anybody has a problem when I say so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called natives, you gonna have some questions to answer. And I ain't even doing my 12 tribe chart lesson yet. I just showed you where Hispanics inscribe the commandments in a boulder of a mountain. It wasn't going nowhere. Because the northern kingdom came to the Americas. It took them 1.5 years to travel by foot every day, every night, from Assyria to the Americas. North, South, and Central America. Boy, it's going to be a lot of questions that you're going to have to answer for me because, see, I've already studied. So I'm going to come with questions prepared. Let's get this. Emmett claimed to have found the tablet in Tipton Mound 3 during an excavation of Hopewell Mounds in Loudoun County, Tennessee. This excavation was part of a large series of excavations that aimed to clarify the controversy regarding who is responsible for building the various mounds found in the eastern United States. I want to go on down here. Let's look at this. The stone itself is 11.4 centimeters long and 5.1 centimeters wide. The inscription consists of at least 8 distinctive characters. When viewed with the straighter edge of the bottom, 7 characters are in a single row and the 8th located below the main inscription. These 8 characters are on average 2 to 3 millimeters in depth. According to the American Petrographic Services evaluation of the stone, the marks are characterized by smooth, rounded grooves. The shape suggests the stone's creator used a round instrument to make the engraving. Additionally, the entire surface of the stone appears to be polished. Let's go and let's see. Let's see where it is. It's going to tell you what is written. It's going to tell you what is written. Oh, there are pictures of it over here on the side, but let me find where it was written. Because you got to remember, North America has a vast and significant history, a rich history that belongs to sophisticated Native American civilians. Remember, these were natives who did this, right? Let's find out what it was written in. Because you just saw what it was written in, what it looked like. Hold on 1 second. Trying to see, because it's going to say Hebrew. It was written in Hebrew. I'm just trying to find it so you can see it yourself. I'm trying to find it. So if you look, this is it right here. This is it right here. I'm trying to see where it actually says. It's written in the Paleo Hebrew. Same thing. But this was by natives. First one by Hispanics. This one was by natives. In fact, I want you to go and find it. Find it and bring it back. I've read it already. I know it. I just don't see where it's at. And I've had y'all here long enough. Let me go to the next one. Just another little nugget. Just another little nugget. Check this out. The Newark Holy Stone, right? The Newark Holy Stones refer to artifacts allegedly discovered by David Wyrick in 1860 within a cluster of ancient Indian burial mounds near Newark, Ohio. If you got a problem with any time I say the so-called Negroes, the so-called Hispanics, and the so-called natives, you don't have a problem with me. I promise you. You got a problem with history and you got a problem with the Bible. Not me. Let me go to what it was written in. The first of these artifacts, popularity known as the Keystone due to its shape, was excavated in June 1860. Unlike other ancient artifacts found previously in this region, the Keystone was inscribed with Hebrew. Why were so-called Mexicans, so-called Hispanics writing Hebrew? Ancient Paleo Hebrew. Why were so-called natives writing Hebrew? This was the Northern Kingdom. Yes, it included so-called Mexicans. Yes, it included so-called Latinas. Yes, it included so-called Indians. That's why I say to all of Israel, whether you're in the truth or not, you so-called Negroes, you so-called Hispanics, or so-called natives, I say to you, you are of the 12 tribes of Israel. It behooves you because you're all in the second, the spiritual Egypt, land of your captives. And it's only prophesied that we all be together in the land of captive 2 times, once to Abraham prior to ancient Egypt. And then Jeremiah prophesied to us prior to spiritual Egypt. There were only 2 deliverances, once from ancient Egypt and one from spiritual Egypt. Time is drawing nigh. It behooves you. Follow the Most High God of Israel's laws, statutes, and commandments. Come back into who you actually are. On this side of the hemisphere, on the Western Hemisphere, I'm speaking to so-called Negroes, Hispanics, including Mexicans, and natives. Point blank, period. I will further prove when I do my breakdown of the 12 tribes chart. Let me stop sharing my screen. Now, Israel. Again, I implore you, study to show yourself approved. It behooves you, as I've done it. I've done this. I wouldn't even ask of you or suggest to you anything that I wouldn't be willing to do or haven't already done. Right? It behooves you to study to show thyself approved. It behooves you not to lean onto your own understanding and understand the Most High never changes. He's not the author of confusion. It's very simple. Just like ancient Egypt, so is spiritual Egypt. Point blank. All the way almost down to the number of years of servitude. How much irony or coincidence? Let me share this with y'all, Israel, before I head out of here. At the beginning, I know I put the prayer list up and I talked about Brother Shaul, and I said that I was going to share with you, Israel, the latest correspondence between he and I. This is what our beloved wrote to me. It's blessings and shalom unto you is the title. It says, Shabbat Shalom, body of Messiah Yahashua. I pray all is well with each of you and that Abba Yahweh grant you a blessed and merciful week. I want to send my humble appreciation and thanks unto each of you for your being a blessing and a help unto me during my time of adversity and hardship. Family of Yahweh, I pray fervently that Yahweh grant you his infinite mercies, provisions, and compassion to have the resources sufficient to maintain your needs and to continue to be a blessing unto the less fortunate, especially to the household of faith. What he's saying, and I'll break his words down for you. He's praying that the Most High fervently continues to bless you so that you can bless your brethren who are less fortunate than you. Family, in the name of our exalted King, Yahshua, the anointed of Yahweh, I humbly beseech you to continue to be a blessing and a faithful support network unto me during the infirmity of my body and my condition of homelessness. As Abba Yahweh leads and inspires your whole heart and mind, please send a donation and or a continued donation or alms unto your beloved brother. Here is my information where you can donate along with video petition. And I just went ahead and got the end of it. As you can see, it reads, it shows the video petition. It shows his information. It says, Abba Yahweh bless you always in the name of his anointed Yahshua, our soon coming King. Time is drawing nigh. This is one of our beloved brethren in the hospital and homeless. He's echoing the sentiment. Time is drawing nigh. Soon, Yahweh will be returning. It behooves you to get your house in order. Part of your house being in order is knowing who all are of the same house as you. That's why I'm slowly but surely walking towards my lesson of the 12 tribe chart. It further reads, your beloved brother, Shalom Israel. So with that, Israel, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to say to everyone on the prayer list, I ask you, keep them in prayer. If you, in fact, can be charitable and donate to our beloved brother, Shalom Israel. Everything is in the description. There have been people that have sent the money to me and I sent it to him as they wish to remain anonymous. That is fine. It can be done however it be befitting to you. No, it doesn't matter to me. All that I ask is that at the bare minimum, keep everyone on the prayer list wrapped in prayer. Even if you cannot donate, keep them all wrapped in prayer. And with that is your brother Marcus G. Till next time, be it the Most High will. I love you all, Israel. And I bid you, Shalom.